and welcome to Family Health. I'm Dr. Kathy, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about the 4 lifestyle choices that you're making that may be hurting your family. If you ever stop to think about what you're doing and how your actions can affect your children, you will know that there are so many choices that we make every day that can really determine how our children and our families view health. The choices start from the moment you wake up, and they continue on with every step you take throughout the course of the day. So if you begin your day, as most Americans do, with a very normal, slow-moving, sedentary lifestyle, you're already starting to decide the choices that your children will make throughout the course of their day and will carry on throughout their lifetime. So what does a sedentary day look like for most families? Well, for most families, waking up in the morning consists of nothing more than doing their bathroom routine and brushing their teeth, getting dressed, having breakfast, and heading out the door, where they'll sit in a car for 20, 30, 40 minutes on their way to school or to the office, and then they may sit all day at their job or at school. So if that's the typical routine that starts off your morning and your children's morning, that's already setting them up for a sedentary day. After they come home from school, what are your children doing? When you come home from work, what are you doing? Do you start cooking dinner and your children are sitting down playing games, doing homework, or watching TV, only to then sit some more to have dinner and then go back to sitting, playing games, doing homework, watching TV, playing video games? Can you start to see the pattern that we're developing here? Because by the end of the day, there hasn't been much activity, and then it's time for bed. That's one of the most damaging lifestyle choices that we could make for our families. Now, when we start making those sedentary choices for our families, the big issue that we have to be concerned with is, what is that doing to their metabolism? What is that doing to their muscle tone? What is that doing for their overall health and fitness? Because a sedentary lifestyle will lead to excess weight gain, it will lead to decreased muscle tone, it can lead to poor posture, and it can start to lead to unhealthy habits, sickness, and long-term disease. So we want to talk today about how to change lifestyle habit number 1, having a sedentary lifestyle, so that you and your family can start to experience health to the fullest potential. Now, the second choice that many families make on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis that is hurting their health and their family's health is poor food choices. Think about the food that goes into your stomach and your family's stomach on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. You're making choices such as fried foods, processed foods, fast food, or as I like to call it, fat food, because there's a reason somebody snuck that S into fast food restaurants, because most of the food choices that you can get in a fast food restaurant are loaded down with fat and chemicals and grease and just not healthy options for you or for your family. So the poor food choices that you may be making without even realizing it are hurting your family's health. Let's think about some of those poor food choices. Are you allowing your family to consume soda, loaded down with chemicals, loaded down with lots and lots of sugar? Are you allowing your family to eat snacks on a normal, regular basis? And by normal snacks, I mean things that come in a package, junk food. If you look at the list of ingredients, is it a mile long or is it just one ingredient? That's going to make the difference between healthy choices and not healthy choices. What about your dinner choices? If your meals are consisting mainly of processed foods, carbohydrates, and lacking in vegetables and fresh foods, then your choices may not be the best for your family. Now, as for how to make better healthy choices, we're going to talk about that later on in the next segment. But we're going to show you that there's lots of options that you can make that are easy, they're simple, and your children will enjoy the foods that you choose. Okay, so number 3, the third unhealthy lifestyle habit that you may be doing right now that is affecting your children. Well, this is a hard one, because this is one that parents have a tendency to not even realize that they're doing, but it's having negative conversations. Negativity around your family goes internal for your children. Anytime you tell your children that they're not good enough, that their actions weren't well enough, that they didn't perform up to your standards, without quantifying it, without giving them some encouragement, without sandwiching it like an Oreo cookie, a little bit of good, here's what we can fix, but here's what you did great. If you don't take the time to really work on communication skills with your family, then we have a tendency to really just start spewing negativity without even realizing it. You know, by the time your child is about 8 years old, they've probably heard the word no 80,000 times. And think about it, when your child first started crawling, it was no, baby, no, oh, no. And then as your child gets a little bit older, it's no, you can't do this, no, you're not allowed to do that, no, I told you don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't eat this, don't touch that, sit still, behave, why can't you listen to me? You see how these things start to creep up with your children? Well, that's negativity that starts to affect your child's self-confidence and the way that they feel about themselves and the way that they start to think in their own mind. And we understand that our thoughts are so powerful because they control everything that we ultimately say and do in our life. So let's be mindful of the words that we say to our children so that you can start having proper conversations with them so that your children can start internalizing healthy, positive messages. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to do that when we come back from the break. But right now, I want to talk to you about the fourth unhealthy lifestyle choice that you are probably making without even realizing it that's affecting your entire family. Are you making healthcare decisions or are you making sick care obligations? There's a big difference there, and I want you to really think about that, because when you start making better decisions, you change your family's health. So, healthcare decisions versus sick care obligations. The only time that most people will seek out any type of care is when they're in a crisis, when they're having a problem, when their body's not functioning to optimum levels. If that's the only time you're making the decision to take care of your health, then you're teaching your family that their health is not a priority. If you only seek out care when you're experiencing a symptom, such as a headache, or a fever, or a stomach ache, or a cold, if you're only taking the time to be concerned about your family's health when they're not feeling well, then we're not taking the time to be preventive, to follow through with healthy maintenance choices. So let's start thinking about different ways that you can make better choices for your family. So we've got a lot of different options that are going to come up for you today in the next segment, but I want you to understand the reason why we need to focus on what we're doing wrong is so that we know where we are and we can create a roadmap to where we need to be. When we create that roadmap to where we need to be, we'll start making better decisions for our families. So if the choices that you're making right now are not ideal, don't beat yourself up, because after all, parenting did not come with a manual. Babies are not born with a handbook that tells you what to do and how to do it and when to do it and why to do it. So a lot of the decisions that we make for our families are based on the decisions that were made for us by our families. Most people eat the way they were raised to eat. Most people exercise the way that their families taught them how to exercise, or not. And most people make lifestyle choices based on the experiences they had growing up in their family's home. So let's start thinking about what those decisions can do. If you're making these unhealthy decisions for your family, we are setting our children up for unhealthy lifestyles. We understand that right now in the United States of America, the number of children that are obese is skyrocketing. We've actually had to revert back to calling adult onset diabetes type 2 diabetes because so many children are starting to develop diabetes from their sedentary lifestyle, their lack of exercise, their unhealthy eating habits, and the choices that have been made for them and that they continue to make for themselves. Now, when our children are making these unhealthy choices as a product of the choices that have been made for them, they don't value their health. They don't necessarily understand what health is. And they're going to make those same choices for the rest of their life and most likely make those choices for their family. So it's up to you, mom and dad, to start making better choices, better decisions each step of the day, each way that you go, so that your family can start to experience better health. Because if we don't, that ache and pain that you've been feeling, that extra weight that you've been carrying, that sedentary lifestyle that you've been living is going to become the life that you lead for your children to follow. So let's start making better choices, because it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be life-altering. It doesn't have to be dramatic changes. It's just one step at a time. And the very first step that I want you to take is just to start drinking a little bit more water for you and for your family. If you can get your children to start drinking more water, and if you yourself can start drinking more water, you're going to see that your choices as far as soda and sugary drinks is going to decrease, because if you're already full, you won't have a need to drink that sugary substance. So that's step one. Now the next step that we're going to take is to start incorporating healthy lifestyle and healthcare choices. We're going to be back in just a moment, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how you can make better decisions for your healthcare and for your family's healthcare, as well as how to make sure that you're having positive conversations that will help your children grow in strong and noble thought. So don't go away. We'll be right back.